Hello, it's Peter Wright and Kathleen Beauvais with another episode of the Yakking Show. Got a really interesting guest coming up for you today. The whole purpose of the show is a new way to think about exercise. But just a quick one before I introduce co-host Kathleen. Stick around to the end and then we will give you some tips on who's coming on next week. It's another one you won't want to miss. But first, let's introduce co-host Kathleen Beauvais. Hi, Kathleen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Peter. Thank you so much. And as Peter mentioned, we do have another special guest with us today. And I'm really looking forward to digging right into this one. But first, let's welcome Dr. Mike DeBord to the show. Hello, Dr. Mike. How are you?
Hey, nice to meet you, Kathleen, and nice to meet you, Peter. Great to be here. Thanks for having me
Good
on
to
your
see
show.
you.
Well, just to give you a little bit of background about Dr. Mike is the founder and president of B3 Sciences. This is a fitness company that is changing the way people exercise. And they've created exercise bands that can make your exercise routine more effective than ever before. They're called BFR bands. So, Dr. Mike, BFR stands for blood flow restriction training, which basically means that when you place the bands around the upper arms and upper legs, they reduce blood flow. So, to me, that sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but please, can
Yes.
you explain what these bands are and how they actually work?
Well, that I commonly say after I say, hey, we're going to slow down blood flow. I answer, I put the question right in the math. Why would you want to slow down blood flow? Most
Mhm.
people are like counterproductive. Well, what is blood flow doing when it comes to exercise? It's
Bringing more
bringing
exercise, oxygen.
oxygen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bringing in the oxygen. Okay. So let's take normal exercise. Oxygen's flowing. Let's call it a 10. Let's put it up here. Everybody knows if you exercise at a 6 and go for a walk, not a lot's going to change. Nobody's ever
Mhm.
said, hey, I got a treadmill. I've been walking for 30 minutes. I got my six pack. I got my guns. Nobody ever says that, right? But
True.
what happens if you run the stadium stairs? Here's what happens. You're using more oxygen than's flowing. Let's call it an 11. Oh, and you feel it. You
Mhm.
feel the burn and the pump. And everybody knows when you feel that, you're going to change because you're going to turn on the anabolic signal in the body. So let's back up for a second. Everybody has seen the altitude trainers. They put the altitude mask on. Why
Mhm.
do they do that? To reduce oxygen to fatigue. Well, what if we just put the oxygen mask right on the working muscle? Okay. So we put these BFR bands on, and there's different bands out there. These are patented. These are the most popular in the United States. And we'll get to the technology in a second. But we're going to take this flow of a 10, and it's going to be a gentle squeeze. It's not a blood pressure cuff. You're not going to feel the thump, thump, thump in your artery. You're just going to feel a gentle squeeze. And we're going to bring this 10 flow down to a 5, less oxygen. So
Okay.
now think about it. You don't have to go up here and exercise at an 11. All you got to do is exercise at a 6. Walking around the track now feels like running up and down the stadium stairs. Curling light dumbbells. It's going to feel like you got 5 times the amount of weight. 3 or 4 minutes on your favorite cardio equipment, and you're going to tap out and get a workout like you worked out for 45 minutes. And here's the crazy part. It's easy. You're not going to be sore. There's very little recovery needed. So everybody can do it. And you're going to change like you did high intensity exercise. And that sounds like a lot, but we're going to dive into why.
Mhm.
But I can tell you that this isn't a gimmick, right? This isn't a fad. This is a scientific breakthrough that's going to be sweeping, the whole globe pretty soon.
Mm, mm, mm. Wow, that is
Oh.
interesting. That is interesting because something separate that was recommended to me to increase the intensity of my exercise when I'm walking. They said, "Why don't you wear a weight vest?" Which I have. I have a weight vest which I carry 10 pounds.
Mhm.
And if I now want to walk in the same time for the same duration for the same distance, I have to expend more energy carrying that extra 10-pound weight.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, is an even easier way. I don't have to carry the extra weight, right?
Yeah. Well, no, we got to go up here. We got to do
Hmm.
Peloton. We got to lift heavy weights. We got to exercise high intensity if we want change, right? Everybody
Yep.
always focuses here. Let's put a weight vest on and make it harder. Let's up the weight, right? Let's do high intensity, right? We're always focused over on this exercise side. Well, how ingenious.
Right.
Why? Let's just cut the oxygen in half, and then we don't have to add the weight vest. We don't have to go for 40 minutes, right? Your biohacking is a term that's commonly used with blood flow restriction to basically hack into the muscle and create fatigue with a fraction of the work.
Right.
Oh,
And it's the same principle that makes the East African marathon runners from Kenya and the high altitude areas of Ethiopia so good when they come down to sea level to run a marathon, right? Same idea.
Yeah, they've been
Yeah.
training with
Wow.
less oxygen. A lot of people think, oh, you can't reduce oxygen. Well, yeah, you can, and you have to. The body was designed to be stimulated or stressed, and two things need to happen for great health and fitness from an exercise standpoint. One, you got to create hypoxia in the muscle, aerobic exercise,
right.
but we all know we also need to lift weights, right? Cross training, right? The super fit people, they go to the gym, they do the cardio, and then they go do the weightlifting. Well, this is going to allow you to hack into both of those and get like a cross training workout in like 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay,
Wow,
so
really
question for you though, Dr. Mike. I'm thinking of people that might have osteopenia or even osteoporosis where they're told strength training is very important for them. So now, if you're talking lifting the weight, but now if you don't need to lift as much weight with the bands, is that still helpful to the person with osteoporosis?
Well, I'm going to share with you a couple myths,
Mm-hmm.
and let's put one out there right now. You have to lift heavy weights to increase bone density. You have to lift heavy weights to build muscle. Well, no, it's just that the heavy weights were the only tool we had. Here's what you're actually doing. When
Okay.
you're using heavy weights, you're actually working in the fast twitch muscles. Right? You have slow twitch that you use oxygen. You have fast twitch that use glycogen or sugar, right? When you lift heavy weights and you get into the fast twitch, what do you feel? You feel the burn. You
Yes.
feel the lactic acid, okay? Lactic acid is what you have to have, okay? So we can use heavy weights or we can use BFR. Both are tools to produce lactic acid. The lactic acid, if it is enough, and we'll talk about that in a second, why BFR is so dramatically different. If you produce enough lactic acid, it actually exceeds what's called lactate threshold, but easy to understand, it actually spills over into the blood. And the blood carries it around the body, circulating lactate, and it goes up here and turns on the anabolic signal. What's the anabolic signal? Burn fat, build muscle, get younger, bone stronger, ligaments more flexible, skin more pliable. You actually get younger and healthier and fitter. So weight is a tool to produce lactic acid. Here's what your body doesn't do. Your body doesn't go, oh, Kathleen, you're lifting a lot of weight. I'm going to make your bones strong. Your body doesn't pay attention to that. Your body pays attention to the circulating lactate.
Okay.
So you can go the heavy weight route, micro tear muscle and be sore, or you can go BFR, light weights, never be sore. Both are going to produce lactic acid. The BFR is actually going to produce more. That is the trigger for the anabolic signal, and we've got all the studies on this. So what most people think, oh, I could, switch and do some heavy weights some days. Actually, you never need to lift heavy weights. I have power lifters and bodybuilders, and I have many ladies who have done pre and post DEXA scans. And here's what I'll share with the ladies who are concerned about bone density. Let's talk about the weight path. Here's the problem. If you have osteoporosis, it's kind of hard to go into the gym and lift the heavy weights. Right? You're challenged. It's going to hurt. Maybe you'll fracture a bone. You're not physically capable.
Right.
So most people with osteoporosis, they're trying to mitigate or stop the progression of it. They're not even thinking, oh, I'm going to go put 10 or 15% bone density on. Now we do BFR. I have ladies all across the country, 60, 70, 80, 90-year-olds in retirement homes doing light exercise. And we've actually pre and post tested their bone density. And we're seeing 8, 10, 12, 15% increase in bone density. Absolutely fascinating. And there's science that backs this up. So one of the things you're going to come out of this conversation with is maybe load and time and volume aren't what we thought they were. They're tools to create fatigue. Now we have a different pathway that's easier and more efficient at creating fatigue.
Okay, so can these bands then be worn throughout the day when you're doing housework and still be beneficial? Or is there, a recommended amount of time and then you should remove them?
Well, like when I said, when oxygen's flowing at a 10 and you exercise at a 6, don't expect a lot to change. Well, the oxygen's now down around a 5. We still have to go to a 6. So I can't just walk around and move around. I'm going to have to do some form of exercise. I still have to get here. I have to match the exercise to be able to use enough oxygen, more than's being supplied, and then I'll feel fatigue. So if you wear them during the day and you're going to do some chores, you still got to create the burn in the muscle. And this is a relatively short time. You only need about 3 to 4 minutes of this. So the people who do stuff during the day, they put them on, vacuum, do some light stuff around the house for 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes, and then they're done. And then they take them off.
Now, I see, are you wearing those right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so out of curiosity, so I'm just curious. So when you go to put them on, how tight do you put those on? Is it?
Well, let's talk about a blood pressure cuff, right? Yeah. Blood pressure cuff has to squeeze through all this tissue because the artery is deep. And a lot of these new companies out there that are selling cheap bands, they use modified tourniquets. Okay, so we know what a blood pressure cuff, it's wide and it squeezes real hard. The vein, we are only interested in modifying the outflow, which is closer to the surface. We don't need to modify the inflow. That outflow is right here. It's the cephalic vein. It's kind of like a garden hose that's close to the surface. You're just going to step on it a little bit. So we don't need this hard squeeze. This is a flexible band. So you slide it up the arm, and then you just snug it down like this. You hook up the pump, and you'll see how easy this is. The number to pump up to is on this little blue pole tab. Pump it up to 200. I'm ready to go. Now, what do I feel? Just feel a gentle squeeze, right? That's all I feel. I don't feel thump, 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 the artery. Everything's still flowing. It's just flowing slower. That's all. Right? So we brought this available oxygen from a 10 down to like a 5. Now, I still got to do my part. I got to go do something to get up here. I got to exercise, walk, but I don't have to go up here anymore.
Very interesting. Yeah, this is quite fascinating, in fact. What about somebody with cardiovascular issues? Are they safe to use? Someone who's had a heart attack, for instance.
Well, let's go back to our 2 types of muscle fibers, aerobic slow twitch, anaerobic fast twitch. Anaerobic fast twitch is typically your explosion, sprinting, heavy weights. Aerobic slow twitch, right? That uses oxygen. One of these is going to benefit your anabolic system, growth hormone, burn fat, build muscle. That's the fast twitch. One is going to affect your nitric oxide, your blood pressure, and your cardiovascular health. We all know that aerobic exercise can benefit the cardiovascular system. Here's the challenge most people don't understand, right? Just doing aerobic exercise and elevating your heart and your breathing does not create an adaptative, meaning get healthier, function in the cardiovascular system. It maintains cardiovascular health. So I call it stage 1 aerobic exercise. You're exercising, heart increases, breathing. What does that do? The body's bringing more oxygen faster into the muscle. If the oxygen that was dropping starts to come back up. The body doesn't need to do anything else. So most people doing aerobic exercise are not creating enough fatigue. Walking, yoga, swimming, Zumba, that's not going to do it, right? But if you put the slow twitch muscles in hypoxia, remember, use more oxygen than's flowing, you're going to get the heart rate and the breathing. But if that doesn't elevate it, meaning you're going to keep going with the BFR bands. For example, I'm on the treadmill, I'm going to keep walking. The body says this, the oxygen isn't coming back up. We need to go to the next stage, stage 2. The body then releases a substance we've all heard about, nitric oxide. It's sitting in your blood vessels. So the body then releases this into the blood. It immediately thins the blood and opens all your blood vessels, vasodilates. Why? It's another way to get oxygen there faster. This process of releasing nitric oxide is adaptative. The body says this, oh, you did something vigorous, you might do that again. I'm going to cause you to adapt. Again, it's the difference between walking around the track and running the stadium stairs. We're going to adapt if we run the stadium stairs. So what happens to your cardiovascular system? It starts to get healthier. Studies show that nitric oxide on the very first session of BFR starts to reverse atherosclerosis, starts to break it down. Within several sessions, starts to reverse hardening of the arteries. Well, we know this.
Gosh, wow.
People who do vigorous, high-intensity aerobic exercise, they have healthier cardiovascular systems. Now, we don't have to go exercise for 45 minutes. We can go do something light and easy for 3 or 4 minutes and get this same wonderful cardiovascular benefit. So I can tell you, we've seen all kinds of fascinating results. And the studies out there say it helps things like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, ischemic heart disease.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because of that nitric oxide. Think about this, everyone. If we increase blood flow by improving the flexibility of the blood vessels, reducing the atherosclerosis, and making the blood thinner, well, you're going to get better blood flow into your fingers.
For sure.
You're also going to get better blood flow into that painful shoulder. You're also going to get better blood flow into the brain, into the heart, into the lungs. If you improve oxygen and blood flow to all the tissues of the body, you're talking about a significant anti-aging effect on the body because you know this, Peter, one of the biggest problems we have as a society is people's blood flow starts to slow down and they see coldness in the fingers. They take their socks off at night. They got the big rings around the ankles, right? Because they've lost good blood flow, and that leads to a lot of health problems.
Sure. And from what you're saying, there's huge benefits, not just for your physical health, but for your mental health, because if you're getting increased blood flow to the brain, you are going to delay the onset of cognitive disorders like Alzheimer's and dementia, right?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there's a substance called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. I know you've heard about it, Peter, right? BDNF.
Yeah.
That's fertilizer. See, most people's brain starts to atrophy, right? But the fertilizer to keep it from doing that, declining, is in here. It has to be triggered, right? So what do they tell seniors? Maintain your muscle. Put on some muscle. What do they tell Alzheimer's? Avoid sarcopenia. Because if you are maintaining and always building muscle, you're always releasing healthy levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor. That keeps neuroplasticity, functioning of the brain, cognitive function. It basically prevents, most of the cognitive decline. And you know this, Peter, you're active. You probably, and you're always doing vigorous exercise. You probably don't have the cognitive challenges that probably many people, that are your friends that aren't doing vigorous exercise.
No, I agree. And I do a whole lot of other stuff, mental stuff to keep the brain active as well. So, I think it all goes together.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So,
back to you, Kathleen.
Dr. Mike, I think you may have answered this already, but I just wanted to be clear on this. So your website mentions that your brain receives a signal triggering a surge of growth hormone release right after the BFR exercise. And my question is, isn't that true with all exercise? Do you get more of a surge with the BFR than you would with regular exercise? Is that
Well,
the distinction?
let's give a couple examples.
Okay.
Anybody ever gone for a walk or done some Zumba or yoga and built big muscles? No,
No.
doesn't happen. Who builds the muscle? The people that go in the gym. And here's what the average person does, which we're going to fix. Here's the average person in the gym. Going to do a set of biceps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's the burn. 7, 8. Okay, we're done. 5 seconds of burn. And they wonder why their body doesn't change very fast. That lactic acid, that little short, gets cleared rapidly in the mitochondria. Okay. Now, what do the big muscle guys do? 5, 6, 7. Oh, there's the burn. And the guy sitting next to him says, oh, we're just getting started. And they make them do 5 or 10. Right? Or they drop the weight and immediately grab a light one and they fight through the burn and they create enough lactic acid that is then more than can be immediately cleared and it gets into the bloodstream. Now it's the trigger. It goes up the efferent afferent nerve pathway and gives you the anabolic signal, like you're juicing steroids, but you're getting it naturally. It's like you're doping. Okay?
Wow.
So this is the difference, right? The average person in the gym, oh, there's the burn. Oh, okay. And they step away, right? They snap a few selfies and talk to a few people. 2 minutes later, go get a little more. So here's the average person, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 20 times, 100 seconds of burn that never triggers growth hormone. Now watch this. Here's BFR, okay? We're immediately here using more oxygen is flowing and you're in the burn right now, but you're doing something light. You're curling like 3-pound dumbbells and you can easily keep going and it's not painful. And you're in the burn for like 20 or 30 seconds on your first set. Your very first set in BFR, you're already triggering growth hormone. By the time you get done with 4 or 5 minutes, you've created 3 or 4 minutes of very focused lactic acid that the average person can't do in an hour in the gym.
Right.
So you worked out 4 minutes. It's like you're in the gym for 45 minutes with the bodybuilders, grunting out as hard as you can lactic acid. And that's this paradigm shift. It's not about time, load, or volume. It's about, can we trigger the fatigue required to turn on the cardiovascular response, drop the oxygen, turn on the anabolic system, create enough lactic acid? And I mean, this is a light warp speed, quantum leap forward in how we do that.
Wow, this is the more I hear, the more fascinating this is.
Yeah.
Here's one for you that I have an issue with varicose veins, more in one leg than the other. And my doctor tells me it's not a vein problem, it's a valve problem, and that's why you get pooling in the legs. Would regular use of the BFR band help with that, do you think?
Yeah. Well, here you hit on venous compliance, Peter. Here's what people need to understand about varicose veins. Yes, they don't look good, but more important is you need those veins to be able to move the blood, right? Or you're going to get stagnation of blood flow, right? That's controlled by that little valve in the vein. It's a different system. It's a little smooth muscle valve. And if you can create a short, vigorous hypoxia, body then triggers the nitric oxide and opens those blood vessels, and all of a sudden that valve starts getting exercised. Okay. If you read our study, Peter, and they're going to get the website later, on the vein study, they looked at 16 women, 8 who did walking, 8 who did walking with the bands. They measured venous compliance, which is how much blood is moving through the vein every time the heart squeezes. That's a measure of that valve moving. There was a dramatic increase in venous compliance, or the ability for that valve to open and let blood flow go through in the people that did BFR. Why? They were able to hit the fatigue, the hypoxia level required to create this adaptation. When normal walking and movement, it's great stuff. Movement's necessary for life, but it's not adaptative. Walking and doing light exercise is not going to create a significant adaptative benefit in your cardiovascular system like vigorous exercise can do.
Okay, very interesting.
Wow.
So I got to try that.
And just to be clear though, Dr. Mike, these bands that you have, eh, people might think, well, I'll just create my own. I'll just tie a rope around, some people might, or a tourniquet around their arms and around their legs. But your product has been scientifically designed so that there's to ensure that there isn't going to be harm to the body at all, right? And again, if you'd like to demonstrate one more time how to
we'll show them. But think about, what's a blood pressure cuff feel like? They start pumping up and you go, oh, right? And then try moving your arm when that's pumped up. It's even worse.
Yeah.
Right? And then they get the thump, 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 right? That's because you're squeezing through real deep, right? You can go on Amazon, everyone, and buy $39 bands and crank them down. It's not going to be a fun experience.
No.
Most people are going to take those off and never put them on again. It is very painful. Why? Because you're squeezing and you're impinging on muscles, nerves, and tendons that need to move, right? Remember, this is, number one, flexible. Number two, here's the secret, multiple air chambers. So when we put it on, it doesn't squeeze like putting a belt. It's not a complete tourniquet. It's like pressure points pushing independently, and the tissues can kind of move around and get in these gaps, which makes it comfortable. But here's what it's proven to do. These bands, when compared to all these other bands, when they're on, we just slide it up. We just get it on the upper arm here. And you'll get videos to show you how to do this. We just snug it down, and we're going to hook up the pump again. Just put the air in it. The air number is right here to start with. This is a 200 band. 200 with a blood pressure cuff would cut me off. This is the blood pressure, right? We studied this, and when we studied it, these bands modified flow out, but did not increase arterial pressure. That means not only are we not cutting off blood flow, we're not even increasing the pressure on the artery. We're not getting anywhere near the artery and pushing on it. That makes it completely safe. If you put a band on that can impinge or increase arterial pressure, up go your contraindications. You put one on that completely cuts off blood flow, you're in the danger area.
Sure.
Right now, you've got armbands as well as leg bands. Do you have to wear both sets?
No, you wear them independently.
Or can you just
so here's the leg band, right? The leg band just goes up here on the upper leg. I just slide it or put it on right here. Snug it down, hook up the pump it up. I'm ready to go. Just right up here on my upper leg.
And so you should be wearing both sets when you're exercising, right? Not just the arms or not just the legs, but all arms.
No, most people only wear one or the other. If you're an athlete that does multiple movements like squats and burpees, that's different. The average 99% of people, you only wear one or the other.
Oh, well, what is the best way to get this product?
Well, the first thing to do is you're going to get a website, at the end of the podcast here that's going to share with you the link that you can go to and learn more. And then you can order it. We ship it all over the world. We can ship from the United States. Most importantly, we provide coaching. You're going to get videos, access to live calls. So we're going to actually work with you to make sure you can get them on and get them pumped up. And then we're going to give you all kinds of fun ideas. Here's the great part. You don't have to do what Dr. Mike likes to do. You might have a rebounder. You might have a rower. You might have a vibration plate. You might like to swim. These are the only ones that are waterproof. You might like to do chores. All you have to do is put them on, do something you enjoy doing, and get about 3 minutes of lactic acid. And it's
Wow.
going to be like you went to the hormone clinic and you're spending $3 to $5 grand a month and injecting yourself with anabolic steroids, but you're tapping into your own natural ones. I mean, that's the most, easy way I can explain it. The results people see are just dramatic. Yeah, you're functioning on your chronological age of growth hormone. For our listeners who are 40, 50, and 60, you know what that age feels like. What did 20 years old feel like? You know what the difference was? At 20, you had more natural growth hormone being released. At 40, you're down to about 25%. It's still sitting here. You're just not getting it released. Right? So why do people inject with growth hormone? To turn back the clock. But it's synthetic and it has side effects and it's expensive. But they do it because you get all these anti-aging benefits. Well, now you can just go get the natural stuff.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And you can, I tell people you don't have to function at your chronological age. Yeah, I'm going to have 61 candles on the cake here in a couple weeks. But let me tell you something. I don't function like I'm 60. I don't feel like I'm 60. I like to think I don't look like I'm 60 or 61 because I've got the growth hormone of a 25 or 30-year-old when I do this every day.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, that's
That
amazing.
that's
Wow.
wow, that is good. So, quick one. Let's take my case in particular. I walk every morning for 50 minutes, and I walk at a fairly brisk. I walk 47 minutes, and I walk at a rate of 10 minutes per kilometer, under 10 minutes per kilometer, which is under 16 minutes per mile. I get my heart rate up into the 90s. Um, and I use walking poles, so my arms are working at the same time. And then I come back and I do 40 sit-ups and 40 push-ups. So sit-ups are immaterial, but if I was to wear the armbands on the time I do 40 push-ups, would that be beneficial to me?
Yeah, and what's going to happen is you're going to do about 30, and then the second set you're going to do about 20, and the third set you're going to do about 5. But what's
Right,
going to happen, Peter, is you're going to produce more lactic acid.
right.
So the stimulus for growth hormone is going to be stronger. So if you're just going to do push-ups and then push-ups with BFR, you're probably talking about a 2 to 5x increase in growth hormone. I mean, that's substantial,
Sure.
right?
What about the walking? Should I put the leg bands on when I walk for?
You want to get these short 4 to 5 minutes. So you got two options. One, put them on at the beginning, right?
Take them off.
And get into the burn. Whether you need to incline or increase the pace, you'll be able to very quickly go,
Sure.
there's the burn. And then you just stay in it, and then let the air out. And you can either be done or you can just take a 30-second break and then you can go for another 40 minutes. Or you can just go 4 minutes and be done. Or you could go 35 minutes, do your normal stuff, take a quick break, pull your backpack out, slap your bands on 2 minutes. Now go burn it out for 4 or 5 minutes. So finisher at the end, starter at the beginning, or completely replace the 40 minutes. Either way, one of those three is going to trigger this massive signal to turn on the anabolic process, this signal of lactic acid.
Okay. Oh, that is really good. Kathleen, you got anything else? We're running out of time. And
Yes, we are, but I know you have your burning question, Peter, so.
Let me
I
go
want to
for
talk about one topic, weight loss, when we get a second, because
Oh,
that's a
absolutely.
big.
Go for that now.
ahead. Go for
That's
it.
very
Yes.
important. Let's do that now.
What does everybody do? They count calories out, right? And
Mhm.
calories in. They're always trying to create this little more calories being burned. And then what do? They start starving themselves. And then they start to lose a little bit of weight, and then their metabolism slows down. Yeah, you can't trick your body for very long.
No.
The average person loses 5 or 10 pounds, and then they're like, I got to start eating again. And then what do? They put 20 back on. It's the average person, right? Why is this happening? Your growth hormone is slowing down in your 30s and 40s and 50s, and so is your metabolism. So, ladies, you had a metabolism of 2,800 calories when you were in your 20s, and now it's down to around 1,900, right? Guess what happens when you do vigorous anabolic producing exercise? What's that mean? You got to get the burn, right? You can't just go for a walk and look at your Fitbit and go, woohoo, 500 steps, right? I tell the joke, you got the Fitbit and you got the scale, and this Fitbit says 500 steps and the scale says nothing's happening. And you just, I'm just going to ignore
Yeah.
I'm going to ignore the scale. Look at 500 steps. Not about how many steps, right? If you can turn on growth hormone, ladies, here's what'll happen. That metabolic burn that you have daily will go up 800 calories. Everybody look at that. Ladies, what if you had 800 calories to play with?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's only one way to do it. You have to do vigorous strength training and turn on growth hormone, which goes right here. And everybody knows what I'm pointing to, your thyroid.
All right, Glenn.
It boosts the thyroid and up goes your basal metabolic rate and it turns on fat burn.
Wow.
So every time you do BFR, you got to get the burn, right? You can't just wear them and go for a walk.
Sure.
You got to feel the burn. Ladies, you're going to burn 600 to 800 more calories per day. Guys, 800 to 1,000. And I mean, your body's just going to start eating fat away, but it's going to be in build at the same time. I don't know of another program where you can be in build muscle and burn fat at the same time. That's kind of difficult to do. We're typically overeating and building, or we're undereating and trying to burn.
Right.
If you can turn on that anabolic signal, you'll be in build and burn every day. And it'll be like you were in your 20s or 30s. You'll be able to eat like you back then and still maintain the physique you want.
Wow, no, that is very, very interesting, that calorie differential. So here's my question that we ask all our expert guests, and I'm really impressed with what you've been telling us. And in your experience, what's one thing you would suggest to members of our audience that they should think about or start doing, an attitude shift, or actually preferably take action today to help them get into a routine of exercise, preferably with your BFR band? It seems that this inertia is the biggest problem that stops people exercising.
Yeah.
What's your tip?
Well, we think of exercise as an option. How many people would not go to sleep? Nobody would do that. How many people wouldn't eat? Nobody would do that. Exercise is the third one. It's just as important, right? In my opinion, I can tell you this. When I don't do my BFR, right, I feel 60. It doesn't matter if I sleep 8 hours. I still get up and I still have a little bit of pain and stiffness, right? So what the shift is it's no longer hard and it's no longer an hour, right? In your day, you're going to find 5 minutes, maybe 10, and you're going to get an essential part of life. You're going to put the bands on and get some burn. The whole key is get the burn. You can do it in your work clothes. You don't have to sweat. You can go to the gym. But if you do that and you turn on this anabolic system in your body, all these other wonderful things you hear about on the show with Peter and Kathleen, like, EMF and good water and all these other things we do for health and good diet and sleep, you're going to magnify those by 5 or 10x.
Sure.
Wow.
Wow, thanks,
Amazing.
Dr. Mike. Brilliant.
Wow. How do people contact you?
Well, first of all, go to the website Yakking, Yakking, and then b3sciences.com. Okay. And you can also send an email with any questions to support, obviously SUPPORT at b3sciences.com, and send us any questions that you have. You can order the bands. Now you're going to get a 30-day money back guarantee. So we call it a test drive. If you don't love them, you can send them back. You're just out the shipping fee. You're going to get coaching and access to all kinds of workout videos and even live calls. We're actually doing a live workout tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern time, but we do some of those during the day also. So, the people in Canada and around the world, we have a lot of people globally that plug into those live calls. And I can tell you this, you start getting the burn and turning on the anabolic signal, you're going to see some things change in pretty significant ways in your life.
Excellent. And thank you, Dr. Mike. For our audio listeners, those contact details will be in the description on whatever platform you happen to be listening to this on. And a last one for me, I promised you a heads up for our next guest next week. It'll be a young gentleman called Olivier Moncondo, and he's talking about natural weight loss. So don't be sure to catch that one as well.
Plant-based
And
diet
from me,
and a plant-based diet.
on a plant-based diet. Yeah, natural weight loss on a plant-based diet. And sorry, thank you, Kathleen. And back to you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mike. It was just fascinating, and I'm gonna need some of these bands. I want them.
Yeah.
So, thank you, and thank you also very much for tuning in to our show. We so appreciated having you. And if anyone is interested in being a guest on our show, we invite you to visit us at theyakkingshow.com. All you need to do is click on the contacts tab where you will find a short application form, and we'd love to hear from you. So until next time, take care, everyone. Bye bye.